Hello and welcome to another edition of Football Express. I'm Stephen Looney and joining me in the studio today are Gerard, Lyttle, Glenn Ferguson. You're both very welcome. As ever, we'll do a quick recap of last weekend's results in the Sports Direct Premiership. Last Friday, October 18th, Loughgall 1, Linfield 3. Saturday, October 19th, Ballymena Utd 0, Coleraine 1. Dungannon Swifts 2, Portadown 0. Glentoran 1, Carrick Rangers 1. Larne 1, Crusaders 1. Cliftonville 0, Glenavon 0. And on Tuesday night there, Cliftonville 2, Coleraine 1. Looking ahead to this weekend in the Sports Direct Premiership, Saturday, October 26th, Coleraine against Glentoran, Crusaders against Ballymena Utd, Dungannon Swifts versus Loughgall, Glenavon versus Carrick Rangers, Linfield v Cliftonville, a big game, and then on Sunday it's Portadown against Larne. Guys, Gerard, will start with you. Just looking down there, Ballymena's fabulous winning run came to an end at the hands of Coleraine, their derby rivals. We've talked before about this being an unpredictable league, but here we are, and who's top of the pile? But Linfield in a crazy weekend and season of results. I have to say, I think David Healy's team are managing their injuries well, and their game against Cliftonville takes top billing. So, we're going to talk about the league as a whole, but let's look at Linfield. Great win last weekend against Loughgall, who are struggling, and they're sort of taking advantage. While they have a lot of injuries, and they do, they're cobbling together results, and they're doing very well. They're playing Cliftonville, yourselves, at the weekend. What do you make of it going into it? And the context this is as well, you know, Matthew Fitzpatrick getting in some quarters, particularly within Linfield's community, getting a bit of stick for not being a prolific goal scorer, maybe in the way of Mr. Ferguson, Andy Wartherworth, etc. But Linfield has scored more goals than any other team in the league, Gerard.
Yeah, Linfield do, but Linfield do, and they win. And regardless of injuries, regardless of players, you know, out of form or whatever, but they know how to win it. I mean, it's in their DNA, and they have done for years, and they're always going to be criticised by whoever, you know, but I think a lot of times it's unfair criticism. You know, David and his team year in, year out, if they're not winning the league, they're always thereabouts. So, you know, how do you actually, you know, fill boots like that sitting beside me and Andy Wartherworth, who were prolific goal scorers in the Irish League for years, and you know, but I mean, Fitzy suits maybe their style for other players as well. You know, there's other attributes that, you know, that look sort of probably, you know, Joel, for example, you know, it's up, links up, holds it up, and it gets players up the pitch. So, you know, yes, he's not a prolific goal scorer, but he is good in terms of linking play up, and he's good at holding play up. He's good at putting defenders under pressure. He's good in the air. So there's a lot of other attributes to his play. I mean, I think if he had all of them, you know, would he be here playing in the Irish League? So we certainly respect, you know, what Linfield have to offer, and again, it's going to be a really tough game for us come Saturday.
Thanks, Gerard. Glenn, bring you in here. You know Linfield well. I'm going to put it to you for a bit of debate, this discussion about, you know, Linfield and the striking areas, because I'm looking here. They have Joel Cooper's got 8, Matthew Fitzpatrick, Kirk Miller, Kyle McLean have got 4, Chris McKee, Charlie Allen, Chris Shields and Sam Roscoe chipping in with 2 each. So there's two sides to the coin. Number one, Linfield have scored more goals than anybody. They're top of the league, so it's working. Then another school of thought might say, aye, but you need your centre forward to be scoring prolifically.
Yeah, that's true to a certain extent. You know, but I think the way Linfield play, if they play a 4-2-3-1, Matthew's up with his own, or a 4-3-3 with the 2 wide men with Matthew to the middle, you know, obviously he's working his socks off. But if you're reliant on someone scoring 30 goals a season, for instance, with the one striker up front, and he was to get injured, then you're in trouble. The thing about what Matthew's doing now, he is causing mayhem right across the line. You know, he's working fullbacks, he's working centre halves, which then allows, when Linfield play the 4-2-3-1 with Joel, Kirk and Kyle McLean getting forward, which proves he's creating space for them, they're getting in, they're scoring goals. You know, so it means that all the emphasis isn't on one player to go and score goals. You know, it's been shared about at the minute. But I agree with you say, you know, having been there and being a number 9 at Linfield, you know, fans expect a number 9 Linfield to score goals. So we're sort of hoping that with Matthew's work rate and the way he plays, that eventually that will come, you know, because we know the delivery that Joel Cooper can put in the box, the delivery that Kirk Miller week in, week out has put into the box. You know, we expect centre forwards to score goals. So, you know, I don't think there's any major concern at the minute. You know, I actually spoke to the manager about this last week, about what he thinks about Matthew's game and what's happening. And I was honest and I says, you know, he will be judging goals he scored. But I think come the end of the season, you know, if Matthew scored 10 or 12 goals and everyone behind him was chipped in with 10 or 12 and they win the league, there'll not be too much concern about it. I think it'll turn around if Linfield are pipped for the league, and you know, you've maybe Andy Ryan who scored 30 and Joe Gormley who scored 30, and they're up there challenging for Linfield, and one of those teams go on and win the league. Then it'll be a case of, you know, if we had a 30 goal striker, we'd have won the league. You know, so that's where we are at the minute. But you know, at this moment in time, Linfield are sitting top of the league. The goals are being shared about, and you know, Matthew Fitzpatrick as a centre forward, the goal scorer in front, is getting away with that at the minute. His all-round play has been superb, and there's no doubt about that. His work rate, you know, but at some stage he will be judging the goals he scored.
Thanks, Glenn. And of the game on Saturday against Gerard's Cliftonville team, couple of points I would make. I do like some of the young players that are coming through at Linfield. Matthew Orr, I think, is a really, really good young defender in the making. But let's flip it. Let's talk about the game itself, Glenn, if you don't mind, because Cliftonville and Gerard, you can either correct me or back me up. I only saw the highlights of last weekend's game. Thought Cliftonville missed a raft of chances in front of goal. What I picked up on was a lack of confidence, maybe. I watched Coleraine beat Ballymena, you know, then Cliftonville go and beat Coleraine on Tuesday night. Joe Gormley getting both the goals. So for me, Joe Gormley still arguably the most potent threat from Cliftonville. Love to hear your ideas in a minute. So in terms of the game itself, Glenn, on Saturday, how do you see it going?
Yeah, well, these games, you know, consistently over the years have always been very tight, and it's going to take the chances are created on an out-and-out striker or goal scorer or something special to win the games. You know, I spoke to Gerard, you know, about the players that they've lost, and Wilson, and you know, particularly Ronan Hale, who can score goals out of anything. You know, there's not too many players in the Cliftonville team at the minute who can do that, I don't think. You know, but Joe Gormley, you know, over the years has been a goal threat, and if Cliftonville create chances, Joe Gormley's a man, he'll take them. There's no doubt about that. It's whether Linfield can snuff that out and who they have available at the weekend for the game. You know, but, you know, as I say, these games are very tight, and it'll just be whoever takes their chances. You know, Cliftonville are very good on the eye, and they're very good, technically very good on keeping the ball, and Ron Doherty keeps the ball ticking over. Very, very good. But Linfield would be more, you know, let's get at them. Let's see if we can get the balls in the box, get the ball forward, and create chances. So it'll be a test for Cliftonville's defence. But on the other side of it, you know, obviously Linfield will be tested as well if they can't get the ball in and around Joe's feet and in the box, and he will be a major threat. It'll be a tight game, but you know, we'll just have to wait and see what happens.
Thanks, Glenn. Following on, Gerard, from what Glenn said, I would imagine that, to use David Healy's words, he'll want to get after Cliftonville on the pitch. Tell us a bit about Cliftonville. Was I right? Was there a lack of confidence or something maybe in front of goal? But I thought it was much better on Tuesday night. I mean, I thought it was, because as I said, Coleraine, I was very impressed with who beat Ballymena last week. We'll talk about that. But going into the game, where do you stand? Where Cliftonville? Do you think Cliftonville can rise to the occasion, Gerard?
You know, obviously, we're not where we want to be at the minute. You know, as Glenn alluded to, we've lost 60-odd goals. You know, but we can't keep talking about that. You know, that's gone now. So what we have now is, you know, we've still got players there who are capable of potentially scoring goals when they had a bit of form. And I just think at the minute, you know, when you look at that, you know, we talk about the three guys that we've lost up front, but we also lost Rory Hale, who was 12, 13 goals this season too, and you know, we're now trying to get him back up to a level of fitness where he was before, you know, the end of the season. You know, with Warren Casey, he was out as well. So unfortunately, we've been hit with a couple of wee things that we've had to work extra hard with to try and either replace or make do. But I sense the last 2 or 3 weeks, you know, we're starting to find our groove a little bit again. I thought against Glenavon, you know, I was probably, you know, the first real game where we thought, you know what, we're nearly there, but we missed a lot of chances. And like Glenn says there, you know, if your centre forward isn't scoring goals, you know, you rely on, you know, their other attacking minded or attacking players to chip in and get goals. But unfortunately, we hadn't even been getting that. Last night, we created probably more chances in that game than we did in the last 3 or 4 games. So that's a good sign for us getting into the Linfield game. You know, we have big games coming up now, but every game we play is a difficult game. But you know, the Linfield game kind of takes care of itself. You know, whether it's at Windsor or whether it's at Solitude. I think the last 3 games against Linfield we've been unbeaten. There's been a couple of draws there, and obviously the Irish Cup. So again, we're going in. We'll obviously assess the players this week in terms of where they are after playing on Tuesday night, in terms of recovery, and trying to keep them fresh for a big game on Saturday.
It's going to be some potent strike force if you think about it. Charlie Allen's come in as well. You look at, I mentioned the goal scorers there. I don't know, is it a front 4 or 5 now these days? Fitzy or backup of whoever. Now they've got backup there as well. Kirk Miller, class act. Joel Cooper on fire. Kyle McLean playing a more advanced role, as he's discussed last season on this, in amongst the goals, and playing very, very well. Kyle McLean, Charlie Allen, magnificent feat. He'll just get better and better. So it's going to be, I would suspect it's going to be a rear guard action at Windsor Park, and you maybe be trying to hit them on the counter.
Thanks, Steve, for reminding me of all top class players.
Don't want to give you a sleepless night,
Gerard. Yeah, I'm sleepless already. No, listen, again, all brilliant players. Charlie, I know, working with the underage, I know what he has to offer, and Charlie on his days, real good feet, can get in behind defenders and can suck you in, and as Joel Cooper is the same. So we know it's going to be a tough game, and likewise it's going to be a tough game for Linfield, and it always is, and it's always a good battle. The game at start of the season was a real tight game, an enjoyable game. Tactically, the 2 teams were well set up, and I think on the day, them big games, it comes down to moments in the game. Fewer mistakes, both boxes. Who does well defending their own backs, and obviously if you get 1 or 2 chances, you take them on the day. So again, it's going to be really, really tight, but top players in show, and hopefully it's an enjoyable game, and hopefully we come out on top.
Thanks, Gerard. Glenn, it's a derby as such. It's not maybe the Belfast derby for either of Linfield or Cliftonville, but anyway, it is a Belfast derby. And the say form goes out the window. Sometimes in football, cliches do come true. I said I was at the Ballymena Showgrounds last weekend. Who could have predicted, really? If you're looking at form, Ballymena unbeaten, 11 straight wins, 8 straight wins in the league. Coleraine, 3 straight defeats in the league. Yet Coleraine bounce back. Now Ballymena themselves will be asked to bounce back because they're playing Crusaders at Seaview. What have you made of Ballymena? And I'll tell you, Glenn, you know Jim Irvin very, very well, a close friend and former teammate of yours. Is it possibly, are they getting a monkey off their back by sort of losing a game, if you know what I mean? Because I know that people were talking and waxing lyrical about Ballymena, and on some quarter saying could they sustain it and be title challengers, which they didn't like at Ballymena, I must say. So Crusaders against Ballymena, how do you think? Will they bounce back? Crusaders have been up and down, held Larne last weekend. They're no pushovers at all. So how do you see that one going at Seaview?
Yeah, it will be interesting to listen to Jim's comments after the game. It's about how his players react to the defeat now. Obviously last year they get into a bad habit of losing games. This year they get into a habit of winning games. But listen, being realistic, we knew Ballymena probably won't win the league. They put a great run together. A defeat was coming, there's no doubt about it. For them, unfortunately, it came against their rivals in Coleraine, which probably would have hurt them. But I would say, well, Jim will probably just brush that off, get the boys back in their training and say, listen, we need to carry on to where we were. Big game going to Seaview, particularly, obviously your team and Ben Kennedy going back, who's been Ballymena's star man this year. But it just shows from where Jim was last year with Ballymena, fighting that relegation playoff, keeping them up, and then just the influx of players, changing 5 or 6 players makes a complete difference to what they had, to what they have now, and they've now got quality in the team that can't go and win games. Crusaders will be in a game on Saturday, there's no doubt about it. Obviously, they have a few injuries. There's been a lot of change in there with the manager, with Decky, and some of the players as well. But I think Ballymena will go there with confidence. They'll know that on the surface they'll be able to get the ball down and play because they've got footballers now as well. And they'll not dwell too long on the defeat to Coleraine. And I think they'll go in there with confidence and it'll be a good game. But, Crusaders obviously got a good result as well against Larne last week as well. So confidence behind both camps going into it. And coming back to what we say, if Ben Kennedy's on form and he can take his chances, there's every chance Ballymena could win that game and Ben can go back and hunt his old team.
Thanks, Glenn. Gerard, Glenn's talking about change. There's been a lot of change in various teams across the league, which I think has contributed to the topsy-turvy nature of it. Bonkers, we called it in the previous show. So Ballymena have made changes. We're talking about Ben Kennedy. 2 key signings for me, I think, are former Coleraine duo Josh Carson and Aaron Jarvis, maybe a bit of an unsung hero. Engine room in the middle of the park, really, really good. Crusaders have had changes, we know. Kieran Offord scored last weekend, Harry Franklin, Jacob Blaney, young players like that. So, what do you think is going to be the key for the game here? It's at home for Crusaders. Ballymena looking to bounce back. Do you expect a reaction, a positive reaction? Do you think?
Yeah, I definitely do. You got to compliment Jim, because a young manager coming in, first job, he was getting it tight, and last year, he fought right to the death, kept the team up, and then has been on an unbelievable run. And to put that together off the back of maybe consistently losing, and put a run together of consistently winning, it's great to see. What's been really consistent for Ballymena this year is nearly they've picked the same 11, right through on that winning streak. Nothing's changed too much. One or two, Johnny McMurray's obviously got injured. Ethan Devine, has got injured, but particularly the back four, back five, had stayed the same bar Saturday, where Daniel Lafferty was out injured, and they've had to make a little change there, and young Brown coming in at left back, so maybe that upset them. I don't know who's available this week, so Crusaders have been similar, up and down. I expect a tough game. Daki again, a young manager coming in. You like to see any young manager coming in and doing well and finding their groove. So again, it's brilliant. Who'd have thought? You're talking about Ballymena sitting top of the league, or in around the top of the league, and then waiting to see how they're going to respond off a defeat last week. How they respond? Will that be their run over, or will it bounce back? So it's a hard one to really say, Stephen, to be honest with you, because they're two good teams, and again, it's two teams that you kind of think you don't know what you're going to get here. You're going to get a real Ballymena Crusaders performance, or maybe as Glenn says, there's one or two injuries that disrupts things. So I couldn't put my finger on who's going to win that game.
Thanks, Gerard. Glenn, we've spoken a little bit about Coleraine. They're playing Glentoran on Saturday at the Coleraine Showgrounds. Glentoran have been on good form recently, unbeaten in 6 games, including 4 straight wins. As I said, Coleraine had lost 3, beat Ballymena and lost to Cliftonville. As Gerard was just saying, they're very hard to read, like a lot of things these times. One thing I'll say about Coleraine, and it's a bugbear of mine, I watched the game on Tuesday night, and I thought Coleraine started very, very well, but then shot themselves in the foot by playing around at the back, in my opinion. Got caught in possession, gave a penalty away, 1-0 Joe Gormley, and it does my head in, Glenn, it really does. I know, and this may cut across your philosophy, Gerard, I don't know. I know there's this talk about wanting to play the game properly, whatever that means, but it just sticks in my craw. And I'll be quite frank, I don't think, with the greatest respect to Irish Premiership, the top flight in our division, I don't think we're good enough to play possession football at the back all the time. Teams will get punished. So that's a wee bugbear I would have about Coleraine, although I think Graham Kelly and Kyle McClellan have been defending really, really well. Glentoran have got their tails up. They've got a wee bit of form together. Seems to be a happy place at the minute, which you couldn't always say about Glentoran. That's a fact. So how do you see the game bearing out on home advantage for Coleraine, the artificial surface?
It's a tough one to call. The only thing consistent about it is the consistency of a lot of the teams. So this one is very much the same. Listen, we know the way Dean plays. We've done it at Dungannon, and I agree with you to a certain extent. That you can play a certain way and have that philosophy on how you want to play, but you need the players to do it, and you need the players to do it well. And at Dungannon, when Dean done it, his teams were getting picked off every week, and people say it's good on the eye, but it doesn't win you matches. If he continues to do that at Coleraine, people will our teams will then know what way he plays and know how to press and play the high press and try to stop him from playing out, as you alluded to, you caught the other night. Going against Glentoran will be a bigger threat. Jay Donnelly's back playing some decent football again. David Fisher's a handful, there's no doubt about it. And I think going forward, Glentoran will offer more pressure on the top end of the pitch against Coleraine, so they need to be very careful. But Glentoran, at the minute, sometimes you don't know what you're going to get. I watched them a couple of weeks ago against Linfield, and the first half they were atrocious. Linfield were winning 1-0, and arguably could have been 2 or 3 up. Came out the second half and was unbelievable, the change in their game. They come out and Linfield were poor and Glentoran were really good, and O'Donnell won the game 3-1. You know, so that's, you don't know what you're going to get from Glentoran. But listen, I haven't watched David Fisher playing. You know, he's the type of centre forward. We talked about our own Matthew Fitzpatrick as well. He's good at holding the ball up, he's good to link up, but he's scoring goals as well. And his goal last weekend, you know, I think Stephen will be disappointed in the defending, the Carrick defenders, because he's wriggled away from 2 or 3 and like unbelievable striking in the top corner. You know, he's got that in his locker, but he's also a very good link-up player as well, and he brings players into the game and creates chances for other ones. So I think Coleraine will definitely have to watch out for that. But on the day, if Coleraine continue to play the way they're playing and Glentoran's way they're playing at the minute, I fancy Glentoran to beat them down there, even albeit Coleraine being at home. I'll fancy Glentoran to go and pick them off. Thanks,
Spike. Gerard, just going to follow on for what Glenn said. I've seen a number of teams for this season, you know, on one-off performance, and I go, I really like that. That's really, really good, including like Carrick on the opening day. You know, I've seen Glentoran play magnificent. I've seen Coleraine play well. I've seen Crusaders play well. Do you know what I mean? But maybe being consistent. Glentoran are playing with purpose. They feel that they should have beaten Carrick Rangers last weekend. Jay Donnelly missed a penalty late on. Coleraine, we've discussed about their defence, and I'm not being too critical. I don't want to be too critical about that possession football at the back. I think teams should have it within their locker and be well versed in it, but not wade to it all the time. They also have Jamie Glacken. I watched him on Tuesday night, and he's one of those maverick players who can conjure up something from nothing. Now, he gives the ball away sometimes, but he is going to be a key man for me. And also, like, the thing I'd say about Coleraine's front four is that they work defenders very, very hard. And I think it's going to be an examination for Glentoran. If Glentoran play to their capacity, they could well come away with a victory. If Coleraine play to their capacity, could be a home win.
No, I agree with Glenn in terms of the managers' philosophies. It's great in having philosophy, and I get that, and we all do. But it's recognising, you know, certain games that, you know, certain players that who you're playing against. You mightn't get time, especially in the Irish League, to play out and build from the back and go through the thirds, and it's something that, you know, we've had to adjust this year too. And it's not just from the back; it's from your goalkeeper, it's from your midfielders, it's from your front men. So you have to mix it up. You know, you have to recognise, you know, formations and stuff like that. We're working through a slump. We've had to change one or two things as well. So, you know, and credit the gym for doing that and recognising that. So again, Glentoran's the same. You know, they've played different formations in different ways this year, and they're now finding a way that they understand how to win games. And, you know, they're a threat from set plays as well. You know, when you see some of the big lads get up, you know, they're going attacking the ball. So that'll be a really difficult game too. I think probably Coleraine is the disappointing thing for Dean Shields at the minute is finding that momentum. You know, they've won against Ballymena, they've lost against us. You know, they can't put back-to-back victories together where Glentoran have. They're disappointed and disappointed not winning the game last week, so they'll be looking to bounce back as well. So again, but it's always difficult going to Coleraine, you know, regardless of how informed or not informed they are. And again, it's going to be another tough one, sitting on the fence. You know, it's going to be a tough game for either side.
Just talking about managers, and Gerard said there about Jim identifying it. No, I think we'll have to look back maybe 2 or 3 years ago. You know, everybody was talking about Larne, how good Larne were playing out from the back, and they were good on the eye. But then teams were starting to find them out, and this is where you got to give Tiernan and his staff the credit. You know, they identified that was it. They needed to do something different. Who can we get to do it? And they went and got Lee Bonus. That means they could go long. That someone who's going to be able to hold the ball up, challenge and hunt down defenders. And to the credit, they changed their style of play to a certain extent when Lee Bonus would come in, and it worked for them again. So that's when the manager, as Jim and Gerard are obviously doing as well, they're identifying that they do have to change. And maybe sometimes Dean, being a good young coach, manager, maybe will have to change at some stage as well.
Well, thanks for that, Glenn. And teased me up nicely, because I was going to talk about Larne. They're playing Portadown on Sunday at Shamrock Park. They're also playing Shamrock Rovers in Europe at the time of recording. We don't know how that panned out. But just following on from what you're saying there, and I have seen Larne adapt. And what I like, and I could be wrong, I think I've seen Larne, particularly this season, using the channels a lot more, width a lot more. Now, I'm not talking about the traditional down to the byline and whip it in, but I'm talking about those dinked balls down into the flanks, the channels, you know, for wide men to run into, which I like to see. It's forward, it's positive, it's, you know, it's not this tippy-tappy at the back. So, Larne against Portadown, ordinarily you might expect the reigning champions to prevail in Mid-Ulster. But what impact can you foresee the European game having? Because it's fair to say that they're not firing on all cylinders, or the results don't reflect. They've been stuttering a wee bit domestically.
I think it'll depend as well what way Shamrock Rovers go into the game. You know, Shamrock Rovers a massive game the weekend as well. Obviously they're fighting for the title and down in their league as well. So both teams will go into it. It's a European game. Both teams will want to set out, you know, put on a good performance and show the punters that, you know, they can play football. But Larne going to Portadown, on paper people will think Larne should go down there and win, you know. But when you think of the players that Portadown have signed as well, you know, your Shea McCartans and Aaron McCarrys and boys who can go in there who are, you know, experienced players. But, you know, it takes those players a while to gel as well. You know, I watched the highlights of the Dungannon game last week, and Dungannon absolutely battered Portadown and could have easily won 4 or 5. You know, so Portadown again as another one of those teams. You don't know what you're going to get from one week to the next. They have quality players who on any given day can win a game for them, and could do that against Larne, depending on the outcome of the Larne game on Thursday, how tired they are, how much it takes out of them, you know. But if they get a decent result, a positive result, they'll be buoyed by that, and they'll be going down to Portadown with great confidence and wanting to go and take them. They know that they're going to have to try and stay in and around it until after the European campaign's over, and then they'll kick on after Christmas. There's no doubt about it. They'll kick on, but it'll be with this 6-week period where teams are going to have to try and take points off Larne and capitalise on what they're doing at the minute. So it could go either way. But if Larne play to their potential and Portadown play to their potential, Larne will win the game. There's no doubt about that. But as I say, Portadown have got match winners that can win on any given day.
Thanks, Lee, and undoubtedly Spike's right, Gerard, because I forgot to say, another team, I was really impressed with Portadown when they thumped Crusaders a few weeks ago. You know, Crusaders, admittedly, Declan Goodale sort of said afterwards, maybe I worked them a bit hard, we were a bit flat. Point being, if Larne are worked a bit hard or a bit flat or slightly under par on Sunday, Portadown do have it within them. Portadown are also up and down. I mean, they were on an unbeaten run, and now they have a few games without victory. So they've only beaten Loughgall in their last 5 games, losing to Ballymena Utd, Glenavon and Dungannon Swifts. So again, that's what I was saying earlier on. You would ordinarily expect the champions to prevail, but who knows what toll the European experts will take on it.
I think like I said at the start, maybe said it one of your earlier shows, that it was going to be one of them seasons for Larne. You know, it takes a certain team in terms of mentality to be able to reset and adjust from the highs of European football. You know, setting up differently, managing your week differently, tactically. You know, a lot of information get into the players. You know, mentally it can be draining, and then to flip that to go and play in an Irish League team, a game where you're kind of, you're expected to win. So it's a complete flip in terms of how we go and approach that game. You know, it's more attacking. You know, you're meant to win the game on paper. So that's always going to be a tough one for Larne this year, and I always thought it would have been. And again, it's a tough place to go. Shamrock Park and down there, Portadown are a very, very dogged team. You know, they'll be in their faces, they'll ruffle them up, and the message I would say from Al Curry will be that, you know, they've been playing on Thursday, you know, let's get about them, let's do this, let's do that, and see how they respond. So again, it's brilliant, because it's going to be another one that's hard to predict. And
with Larne playing Shamrock Rovers on Windsor, Windsor's a massive pitch and it drains you. You know, and Shamrock Park have the ball for the majority of the time and Larne are chasing it. Going to Shamrock Park, which isn't a massive pitch, but it's a heavy pitch. We've played on it, you know, and if there's any rain, that pitch, Larne will be tired. There's no doubt about that. No.
Well, let me ask you, Glenn. Dungannon Swifts are playing Loughgall, and I'm going to ask you, I want to talk about Dungannon Swifts because they're playing so well. Very exciting. Really love what Rodney McAree is doing down there, Stangmore again. Loughgall are struggling bad. They're in danger of being cut adrift. Benji McGee left Loughgall, same way as Lee Bonus left Portadown. Is that impacting negatively on Loughgall, and not only in terms of the goals, but I'm talking about the contribution? And I'm sort of thinking of Lee Bonus as well, because the work he does, you said earlier on. Can a striker like that in Loughgall's case, like, I know they're not a one-man team, and it's not all down to Benji McGee leaving, but how much of it is?
Yeah, possibly. You know, when you have a player like that in your team, you go out on a match day with that chance that you can win a game because you've got a goal scorer. Well, I alluded to earlier about Cliftonville losing 3 strikers. They had options. Benji McGee was Loughgall's talisman last year, there's no doubt about it, and he was scoring goals and winning games for them. When you lose someone like that and don't replace him, that team's going to struggle because they then don't have that focal point, they don't have the focus to get the ball to someone who they think can win a game for them. And I think, we're talking about manager, I think Rodney McAree's done a fantastic job at Dungannon. But again, he can mix it up. He's Andy Mitchell, who's a 6'4" centre forward, but he's also got players who are quick and sharp and can play and pass around him. I think John McGovern's been a superb signing for him as well. Watched him for a number of years, strong, quick, and he's been super for him. But I think Dungannon will be too strong for Loughgall, simply because Loughgall, I said right at the start of the season, I thought they struggled this year. The first season they'd done well. I thought they struggled this year, even if that still had Benji McGee. They don't have him, and I don't think they've really replaced him with someone who can go and be a match winner on his own on any given day with his pace and his finishing power. They haven't replaced that. So I think, that's where they'll struggle, and that's where the confidence in the players, they're going out and they're saying, who can win this game for us here today? Where last year they're going, if we get the ball to Benji can win this game for us. So that's where they're going to struggle, and I think Dungannon's got too many options and will come out winners in the day.
Thanks, Glenn. Gerard, I'm going to put it to you and hope that you don't have splinters. Without being unfair to Loughgall, I can't see any other result than a Dungannon swift victory, and that is to praise Dungannon and what Rodney's doing there. They're really good to watch. John McGovern, you talked about Spike. I think the Blues were talking about signing him a few years ago, maybe not on their own in that respect. Leo Alves, a very skillful player. Gael Bigidi-Mana, really, really enjoying himself down there. Keelan Dillon. What is it about Dungannon? Not only have they got up there, they're in third, and they seem to be able to sustain it. They've taken some big scalps. Beat Larne 3-0 recently. Not many teams do that.
Yeah, again, I think personally, and Glenn will hopefully agree with me, recruiting. You're judged in terms of managing on how you recruit. And I think Rodney has recruited brilliantly this year, and the players he's brought in fit his style. And Harry wants to approach games and play games, so I think his recruitment's been excellent. And Dungannon, they're a team on a day could absolutely annihilate you in terms of starving you from seeing the ball. They're really good at keeping the ball. The running part of pace. Again, we play them in a couple of weeks, and it's always a tough game for us going and playing Dungannon. So I can't see anything other than a Dungannon win, unfortunately for Loughgall. Loughgall, last year playing at home was always a difficult, hard place to go to. It was kind of a fortress for them, and they relied heavily on it. But this year it doesn't seem to be happening. We went down, and again we hadn't been playing well. And it was a game that we thought was just going to kickstart our season because it's probably our best performance of the year. But they've lost, as Glenn says, they've lost, a top player in Benji, and they haven't replaced him. And when you don't replace that type of player, again, it's down to recruitment for whatever reasons, whether it's budget, whether it's the player's not available or that certain player's not available, it's always going to be a tight one. So, but Dungannon, for me, is so far has been, in my opinion, the team so far this season.
Thanks, Gerard. Now, just looking at Loughgall, well, maybe not Loughgall, but looking at who they'll be looking at. Glenavon versus Carrick's the last game we haven't spoken about, Glenn. Carrick were rock bottom. Stuart King departed the club. Stephen Baxter came in. They've had 2 wins and a draw since Stuart left. Glenavon mixed. These are the teams that Loughgall will be targeting and looking up and saying we need to catch them. And I think it's a case, maybe not necessarily of Loughgall being poor, but I think everybody said a lot of the bottom 6 have lifted their levels. So Glenavon against Carrick Rangers, it's at Mourneview Park, your former stomping ground, Glenn. What do you make of it? Stephen Baxter, Danny Gibson's been in the goals. He scored in each of the last 3 games, so he'll be a potent threat. Will home advantage make a difference here, Glenn?
I don't really know. Glenavon have had some decent results this year as well, and some good defensive performances which they've put in. There's no doubt they're going to be under pressure. Carrick have got that, reaction from players when a manager leaves the club, which it's disappointing, because they're showing the players are showing what they can actually do. And, you know, I've talked about it before, I think the players let Stuart down, there's no doubt about it. And they've been kidding him on, and he's lost his job because of that. Maybe other things going on, but that's what it looks like. But listen, they've moved on. Stephen Baxter's come in. We've known Stephen to be in the league for numerous years. You've known him well. Stephen will put his own stamp on Carrick, and they will be very, very difficult to beat going forward. You know, we know what way Stephen plays. You know, Stephen's not going to be one where he's going to want his two centre halves playing in the 6-yard box and playing around the back. You know, Stephen will want the ball to get forward, put the pressure on, get in the final third, and go and try and win games. You know, so where Glenavon, Stephen O'Donnell, as we know, is another one of the purists. He likes to play football. You know, so again, it's going to be another contest with two different contrasts of style of play. Paul Heatley, back with his old manager now, I think he's been super so far for Carrick. He's been doing well. You know, so but on the day again, you know, the whole Glenavon thing about Larne, their pitching as well, whether it suits them, it'll suit Carrick as well, because they're going to play direct and try and get the ball forward, so they'll not be worrying about getting wide, you know. So it'll be a testing game for Glenavon. I think Carrick will put it up to them.
Thanks, Glenn. I agree with what Glenn says there, Gerard. Stephen Baxter. I think Carrick have a lot of good players there. I told you I was very impressed in the first day of the season, and it went bad. So I think Stephen Baxter will lift them. I think Carrick will go that way. I don't think they're going to maybe necessarily break any doubt, but I think they're going to be okay. Glenavon, peculiar case, yes. Even with Stephen McDonnell, I think we've seen him adapt a little bit. I mean, a few years ago, he was very wide. He was like Dean Shields at Dungannon last year, playing out from the back, and I couldn't understand it at all. But I've seen him this season where he's tried to really keep things tight at the back. Maybe narrowing the pitch helps him defensively, Glenn, as well, making narrow space. So I think it's an intriguing battle, Glenavon against Carrick Rangers. I think Danny Gibson's the player to watch.
I think what Carrick have is massive experience within the Irish League, and that can stand by you in terms of managing games and stuff. Glenavon we played last week, and again they're kind of similar to Dungannon. And they try and play, they'll have a lot of ball, they'll have a lot of possession. I think the key is if you can try and nick a goal early, you know, then it can open up a little bit, and you can punish them that way. Stephen's chopped and changed a little bit this year in terms of his formations. I think they were tried and trusted in a three at the back, and then they changed it and they lost the game, and then they went back to obviously three at the back against us, and they were decent. So at home they will have a lot of ball, but I would say Carrick will put a lot of ball in the box too. As Glenn says, you know, they'll get it wide, they'll get balls in the box. They've got the players there who can put you under pressure physically as well. So again, it's a tough game, and I wouldn't be surprised if Carrick going there and getting a result. But again, at the same time, you know, on their day, I think what Glenavon's probably lacking is up until the final third. You know, David McDade's out injured. He was starting to find a wee bit of form. They've Michael O'Connor there, again on his day can punish teams. But I think talking to Stephen last week, his biggest frustration is in around final third and somebody putting the ball in the net for them.
Well, indeed, I think it's going to be a game that strikers come to the fore and possibly. Okay, gentlemen, I think we've covered everything comprehensively, so it just falls to me to say, Glenn, thank you very much. Gerard, thank you very much. It's been great to have you as always. That's it for this show. Thanks for joining us, and we hope to see you the next time on Football Express.